I bought my dad front row tickets to the final game of his favorite team. At birthday dinner, he said, "My son's desperate to be liked. Must be exhausting." Everyone looked down. I just smiled and left. That night, I sold the tickets, transferred the seats, and sent the email notification to his inbox. At 7 a.m. he called, panicking. "They're gone." I just replied. This was the last time I ever tried for my father. I knew it deep down even before the dinner, even before the tickets were in my hand. I think I knew it the moment I clicked buy and saw the final total $3,962. 2 front row seats to the Titans' final game right on the 50-yard line. That game ended up being one of the most unforgettable in NFL history. The kind of ending that gets rewatched for years. And he could have seen it unfold from 20 feet away. I didn't buy them to win him over. Not really. I'd already stopped trying to impress him a long time ago. But somewhere in me, buried under the tired part, there was this flicker of maybe. Maybe this would be the one moment he looked at me without that quiet disdain he always carried. Maybe this time he'd say something kind. I had been planning it for weeks. Called every connection I had to make sure the tickets were real, legit, clean. They were delivered electronically. I had them printed and put in an envelope because I knew he'd want to hold something in his hand. The dinner was at his favorite steakhouse. He called it real food for real men, which was just another way of saying he liked places that made him feel important. I reserved a private room. Invited everyone he considered close. My mom came even though she looked drained. Aunt Carla and Uncle Wayne showed up. Megan, his coworker, who always found her way into family things, made her usual appearance, smiling too brightly. I even made sure they had his favorite bourbon behind the bar. We ate. He talked mostly about the Titans, ironically. The season, the players, the injuries. I waited until dessert. Told the waiter to bring out the envelope on a tray. I'd rehearsed how it would go. He'd open it. He'd get quiet. He'd look at me like maybe just once I'd done something right. He opened it, pulled out the printed tickets. His eyes scanned the seats. His face didn't change. Then he raised his glass and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "My son's desperate to be liked. Must be exhausting." And just like that, the room shrank. You could feel the silence settle. My aunt stared at her plate. Megan blinked and gave this awkward laugh that died instantly. Mom looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. No one said anything. I just stood up. Left 2 20s on the table for my meal. Didn't say a word. Walked out and didn't look back. That night, I sat at my desk, opened the Ticketmaster app, and stared at the seats. I thought about it for maybe 5 seconds before I clicked transfer. Found a guy on a Titans forum. Single dad trying to take his daughter. Sold the tickets for half the price. Took the loss. Then forwarded the cancellation and transfer confirmation to my dad's inbox. At 7 a.m., my phone rang like someone had died. I let it buzz a while before picking up. "They're gone," he shouted. "The tickets? What happened?" I didn't flinch. Just said, "That'll be a lesson." Then I hung up. What he didn't know was that this was just the beginning of something way bigger. He thought that game was the big loss. He hadn't seen anything yet. By the time the sun was up, I already knew what was coming. The first call came at 7:03 a.m., then 7:06, then 7:10. My dad always had this idea that if he called enough, he could break you down by sheer volume. As if your will to ignore him had a limit, and he just had to hit the right number. I didn't answer. I watched each call come in. Phone face up on the nightstand, vibrating like it was trying to claw its way across the table. By noon, I had 17 missed calls and 4 voicemails. He didn't know how to sound vulnerable, so instead he just sounded furious, panicking, but still trying to wrap it in authority. "Call me back now. This isn't funny. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but you better fix this. I'm not going to ask again." Each one more demanding than the last. Like I owed him something. Like the birthday dinner and the tickets and years of effort were just the warm-up act. At 2:13 p.m., Mom texted 2 words. "Call him." No punctuation. No please. Just quiet pressure like she always did. Never taking sides, just nudging me to smooth things over because that was my role. I stared at the screen for a while. Then I put the phone down and went to make coffee. I didn't reply. Later that night, I remembered something. It hit me out of nowhere while I was halfway through an old episode of The Office and spooning cereal out of a plastic container. The Ticketmaster account, not just for the game, for everything. A few years back, I had set up a bunch of digital accounts for him. Travel apps, sports gear, even his fantasy league platform, all linked to one email, one login. Mine. He didn't care about the tech side. So I offered to manage it. Set everything up under my name and card. Just easier that way. That's how I'd convinced myself. Just easier. The truth was I wanted to be useful, needed to be needed. That's how it starts. I opened my laptop, logged into the main account. There it was last 3 hours ago. Probably him trying to find the missing tickets. He'd also recently ordered a $480 autographed helmet and started the checkout process for next year's season package. Everything tied to my payment info. I clicked through each section calmly, removed his email, changed the password, deactivated autofill, signed out of all devices. 30 seconds. That was it. Years of access undone in half a minute. The next morning, he called again. I answered this time just to see. What the hell did you do? I can't get into anything. The site says my login doesn't work. All my stuff is gone. Are you out of your mind? No, I said. I just finally came to my senses. You've got a lot of nerve. I didn't reply. You cut me off. Do you understand what you've done? You think this is just about tickets? You're a damn traitor. That word hit different. I let him finish, his tirade, voice rising, words slurred with rage. Then I hung up. I didn't speak to him after that. Not for days. But he didn't stop. He didn't know how to let something go without turning it into a war. When he couldn't get to me, he turned to everyone else. By the weekend, it started. Cousin Nick left me a long-winded voicemail about disrespecting the man who raised you. Aunt Linda messaged me on Facebook saying she was praying for me to find humility again. My uncle, who hasn't called me in years, suddenly wanted to grab lunch and talk. They all had the same tone. Awkward, hesitant, like they didn't fully believe what he was saying, but felt obligated to pretend they did because he'd made his rounds, told them I'd sabotaged his birthday, humiliated him in front of the family, and cut him off financially in some kind of petty tantrum. But no one pressed, no one fought hard, and not one of them said they were angry. It was more discomfort than outrage. They'd all been around him long enough to know what he was like, even if no one said it out loud. The strangest part, my mom didn't say a thing. No calls, no texts after the first one. Nothing. And that silence, it told me this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The silence lasted 5 days. Not a word from Mom. No texts, no calls. She didn't even like the photo I posted from a hike the day after the fallout, which was her usual move. Passive check-ins to make sure I was still alive without actually talking. That was when I knew something was brewing. On the 6th day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Then another, all with the same local area code. I picked up the 4th one. Is this John? This is Ken from Titan Resale Group. I got a voicemail from a man named Paul saying he had tickets he wanted reinstated. He mentioned you? Of course. My dad had found the number to the resale site and was trying to call his way back into the seats I transferred. The man had no idea how ticket transfers worked. Or maybe he did and just thought he could yell his way into a rehearsal. He used my name, acted like I made some kind of mistake. I told Ken the truth, that the tickets were a gift and they'd been canceled. That they were mine to give away. Ken paused, said, "That lines up with what we have. Just needed to make sure." An hour later, I got a text from my dad. All this over a stupid joke. You think this makes you better than me? Then radio silence again. That night, I sat at my desk and reviewed all the accounts I'd ever helped him set up. Credit monitoring tools, airline mileage accounts, sports subscriptions. I tied more of my information to his life than I realized. All in the name of making his life easier. So I started untangling it. One by one, I removed his email, deleted saved passwords, canceled anything linked to my cards. The list was long, longer than it should have been. The final straw came when I saw a charge for $180 to a memorabilia site. Signed photo of a player he never even liked, probably part of some collector's pack. Bought the day after I removed him from the ticket account. He'd gone into one of the old link services and tried to squeeze one last charge through. So I called the bank, reported it as unauthorized. They flagged the card. I ordered a new one. I didn't tell him. I just let it hit him when it happened. The next morning, Mom finally called. "Sean, we need to talk." I stayed quiet. Let her speak first. "Your father's upset. I noticed it's not just about the tickets. He's saying you cut off all access, accounts, payments, everything." I did. She was quiet for a second. "Then he's saying you've betrayed him, that you've turned on your own family." "He said that?" "Yes." I laughed. Couldn't help it. "Of course he did. You're not denying it?" "No, I'm confirming it." I could hear how tired she sounded. She wasn't angry, just worn down. "You know what this means, right?" She said. "Yeah, it means he's finally feeling what the rest of us have been living with for years." The call ended soon after. No fights, no shouting, just a dull, cold acknowledgement that the family scaffolding was crumbling. But then it turned. The next day, I started getting messages from more distant relatives. Ones I hadn't spoken to in years, a cousin in Florida, an uncle I'd only met twice. They'd heard stories about how I hacked my dad's accounts, how I drained his money, how I tried to ruin his reputation. He was painting me as the villain. And the worst part, he was good at it. Knew how to spin things just enough to sound reasonable. But even with all that noise, no one outright believed him. No one called to accuse. They just sounded uncomfortable, like they were caught in a lie they didn't want to be part of. And me, I didn't respond to any of it because I knew what was coming next and I was ready for it. It was a Thursday when it happened, 10 days since the dinner. I was at work halfway through a meeting when my phone buzzed. It was an email from my bank. Failed login attempt. Then another. Then a security alert. Unusual activity. My stomach dropped. I excused myself and opened the banking app. Someone had tried to access my account using a forgotten password link, and not just once, 6 times. There was a flagged attempt to update the contact email. The one they used, my dad's. I stood in the hallway of my office building, blinking at my screen, hearts starting to pound. This wasn't him being angry. This was him trying to mess with my actual finances. Cross a line that couldn't be uncrossed. I called the bank, confirmed the breach attempt, and had everything locked down within the hour. Changed all passwords. Enabled 2-factor authentication across every platform. The rep on the phone told me whoever was trying clearly didn't know the new credentials, but they were guessing aggressively. After work, I sat in my car for 10 full minutes before calling him. He picked up immediately. "You seriously just tried to break into my bank account? You overreacted." "I just wanted to." "You tried to commit fraud." "You're insane." "It's not fraud if it's my money, too." That's when I realized something. He actually believed that. He really thought that because I'd helped him for years, supported him, paid for things, made his life smooth, that he had a claim to me. Not just my support, but everything about me, my time, my accounts, my money. "You're out of your mind," I said and hung up. 10 minutes later, I got the group text sent to me, Mom, my aunt, a few cousins, a big long message about how I become a toxic influence, how I was destroying the family structure, and how John is no longer a part of my will or household, like we lived in some sort of empire, like this was a press release. Everyone ignored it. No replies, not one. But it didn't stop. That weekend, he showed up at my apartment building. Didn't even call first. Buzzed the doorbell 5 times in a row. I watched him from my second-floor window, standing there in that jacket he always wore like it gave him authority, holding some folder. When I didn't come down, he left, slid something under the door of the building's entrance. It was a handwritten note for pages full of accusations that I was mentally unstable, that I was being manipulated, that Mom was afraid of me, that I owed him thousands in debt of upbringing. He used those exact words, debt of upbringing. The next day, I went into the settings of every remaining shared account, even obscure ones. Cloud backups, TV apps, old device login, removed his name from everything. Closed accounts where I couldn't remove him. I wasn't just cutting off access anymore. I was burning the bridge. Then I did something I hadn't planned. I drafted an email and sent it to every person who had reached out awkwardly over the last 2 weeks. The family, the cousins, the quiet sympathizers. I told them the truth, attached screenshots, summarized the birthday, the ticket transfer, the financial breaches, the voicemail transcripts. All of it. I kept it short, clear, and without emotion. I told them I wasn't asking for sides, just silence. And to my surprise, that's exactly what I got. The next 3 days, nothing. No calls, no messages, nothing from him either, until Mom showed up at my door. And the moment I opened it, I could tell everything had finally collapsed. It was early, barely 8 a.m. on a Sunday. I wasn't even dressed yet, just a hoodie and sweatpants, half a cup of cold coffee in my hand when someone knocked on my door, not buzzed from the entrance downstairs. Knocked. I opened it without thinking. It was Mom. Her eyes were red, not just tired, worn out, like she hadn't slept in days. She was holding her purse with both hands, like she was bracing for something. "Can I come in?" I didn't say anything, just stepped aside. She sat down at the kitchen table without waiting. I stayed standing. "What happened?" I asked. She looked at me, and for a second I saw something I hadn't seen since I was a kid. Not sadness, not guilt, just shame. "He locked me out," she said. I blinked. "Wait, what?" "He locked me out of the house. Changed the garage code and front door pass. Said if I was going to choose you, I could live with you, too." I stared at her, speechless. "Is this a joke?" She shook her head. "He's lost it at John. He's completely spiraling. He's convinced the whole family's against him. He said you've turned everyone into enemies." My stomach dropped. "You're living out of your car." "I'm at Carla's for now," she said quietly. "But it's worse. There's more." She pulled out a folded piece of paper from her purse and slid it across the table. An invoice. Credit card statement. $2,300 charge to a collectible store. Not the one I'd seen earlier. Another one. Memorabilia again. He'd ordered a signed football and jersey from 2 separate rare sellers under my old payment authorization. The card had expired, so it bounced. Now it was sitting on her desk and collections under her name. He had used her old card, too. The one I used to help her manage. "He's blaming me for the bounce," said. I should have known that I failed to cover him like I always do. I sat down slowly. "He's out of his mind. He's broke," she said, eyes fixed on the paper. "I didn't know. He's been hiding things. Missed 2 mortgage payments. He borrowed against his pension. And now the bank's calling." The number stuck with me. $2,300. Not life-ruining, but enough to feel like a punishment. I stood up, walked into my room, grabbed my laptop, and logged into my bank account. 2 minutes later, I paid it. When I came back into the kitchen, I handed her my phone with a confirmation email pulled up. "It's done," I said. "But that's the last time." Her hands trembled a little as she took the phone. "I'm serious," I added. "You need something, I'll help, but I don't want to hear about him again. Don't ask me to call. Don't send me guilt texts. He's gone." She nodded slowly. "I won't, I swear." And she meant it. I could see that. But even as she left, even as she hugged me with that soft, empty kind of hug people give when their heart's not in it, I knew something had shifted forever. What I didn't expect, what I couldn't have expected, was what he did next. 3 days later, I found out from a friend of mine, someone I hadn't talked to in months, that my dad had started a blog, a public one, under his name, titled "How My Son Tried to Erase Me." I didn't even have to open it, but I did. The blog was public. No password, no firewall, no shame. He used his full name, real photos, a headshot from his work profile. The banner image was a cropped photo of the Titan Stadium. Classic him. Try to borrow credibility from anything he thought gave him power. The first post had already been shared 15 times. It opened with a title in bold. "When blood turns against you, a father's warning." He wrote about how I was an unstable man, easily manipulated by toxic ideologies and motivated by vengeance. He described the birthday dinner like a staged betrayal, claiming I humiliated him in front of friends and family, made a spectacle, and then orchestrated a digital assault on his life. There were parts that were half true enough to sound plausible to someone who didn't know me. He claimed I'd embezzled money by controlling his accounts, said I blackmailed him with access. He painted a picture of a bitter, ungrateful son punishing a flawed but loving father. He even implied I'd been emotionally unstable since childhood. And here's the part that made my chest go cold. He added screenshots, out-of-context emails, cropped messages, bank statements blurred enough to seem mysterious, but real enough to give his narrative teeth to anyone outside the story. I could actually look like the villain. I didn't panic, but I did take screenshots. I archived the entire blog, every post, every comment. I saw that some family members had even liked it. Quiet, cowardly clicks from people who didn't dare reach out, but still wanted to pick a side. I didn't contact him, didn't send a take-own request. I just called a lawyer. I had everything documented, every transaction, every login, every gift, every email, even the voicemails. It wouldn't take much. The next day, I was back at work when I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring out. A voicemail popped up. I played it on speaker. It was a woman's voice. Calm, professional. "Hi, John. This is Amelia from Nashville Post. We've come across a recent blog that's gaining traction in the sports fan community. Some of the claims involve your name directly. We're looking to verify details for an upcoming piece. Would you be open to a brief interview?" I froze. The blog hadn't just gone public. It had started to go viral. And that's when I realized he wasn't just trying to ruin me and the family. He wanted to ruin me publicly. He thought he'd cornered me, but he'd made one mistake. He picked the wrong son to turn into a story. 3 weeks passed. I didn't respond to the reporter, didn't give a quote, didn't comment on the blog. I let it hang out there in the wind like a loose thread on a cheap suit. And just like I expected, it started to unravel on its own. The first post got some traction, mostly among older men on Facebook and sports forums who thought they saw a bit of themselves in my dad's voice. But after that, the interest dropped. The second post had fewer views. By the third, no one cared. The blog became noise. I could see the desperation in his writing. He posted more often, longer entries. Started responding to his own comments under fake names, trying to keep the conversation alive. It was sad. My lawyer sent a cease and desist. Not a threat, just a warning. He ignored it, so he went further. A defamation claim was filed quietly. Not dramatic, just methodical. A week after that, the blog went offline. No apology, no announcement, just gone. I didn't say anything to him, didn't gloat, didn't post online. I stayed silent. The family stopped calling. Even the ones who backed him quietly, liking his posts, sharing his blog, they fell off. Some probably felt embarrassed. Others just didn't want to be involved anymore. Mom stayed with Aunt Carla. She called occasionally just to check in, but never brought him up. She sounded different, lighter in some ways, heavier in others. And me? I went back to my life. I worked. I ate dinner alone. I slept well for the first time in years. The anger faded, not completely, but enough to stop burning all the time. I stopped checking old messages. Stopped thinking about what I could have done differently. I hadn't made a mistake. I just stopped pretending it was my job to fix a man who never wanted to be fixed. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a son trying to prove anything. I just felt like myself. On weekends, I started running again. Nothing serious, just loops around the park near my apartment. It helped clear my head. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't post about it. It was just mine.